We're gonna go for a walk, and I think that I'm gonna see if I can. I don't know. You might ask Tim, why are you going for a walk today? Hey, Chinohoshi. You might ask, why am I going for a walk during a quarantine? I sort of figure that if we're gonna, I don't know. Well, like, there's no reason why you should be trapped inside automatically. Let me see if I can figure out a way to turn this chat on. Live chat. There we go. Hello. How's it going? What? What says same as? Can you hear me? Can you people hear me? Let me know if you can hear me. So here in Montreal, there's no objection to. There's nothing wrong. Hey, Lucille. Currently, there's nothing wrong with going outside. It is not against the law, and also, it's a very nice day. So, the idea is you can see there's people around me. We're walking. Everyone in Montreal is pretty good at keeping our distance, so we're all going to keep our distance from each other. Quite a few people are wearing masks, but you keep your distance. The wind blows away viruses that are coming out of people's mouths, and it's healthy to be out in the sun. Self-quarantining doesn't necessarily mean that you shelter inside your house. It's actually fairly unhealthy to do that. And so I would encourage you, if you are in a place where you can go out and get some sun safely, far away from people, that you can walk up and down and get some actual exercise. It behooves one to do that. So we're gonna see how long we can get this going. There's people running past me. How do I keep the chat up? I don't want the chat to disappear. Let's see. Live chat. Yeah, I should be able to view the live chat. Hey, back to my normal account, says Jan Hoffman. Hello, Emma Lyrical. Anyways, tell me where you're from. Same as says they're locked down today. Hi Tim, says Ivan. Hi Ivan. Hey Ann Smith. So I think I'll just be talking today. I'll just be answering questions and stuff and talking about what's going on with me, what's going on with the channel, if you guys want to know anything about what I do. Okay, so I just have to tap it, I guess. Let's see. So we got hello from Montreal. Hello from watch out behind you. Yeah, it's true. This is a bike path. People walk along it all the time. So I'm trying to sort of walk the line between cars going by in this direction and myself going by in the other direction. Let's see. We got hello from Switzerland. UK still in lockdown. Bern, Switzerland. India, Norway, California. Constance. We got New York City. Let me stop to read this. Cool. Nice to see some outside stuff. I miss Montreal so much. Lori, you used to be in Montreal. That's sweet. Hi from Grenoble, France. From Switzerland. Chloe's from Switzerland. Hello from Western Washington. Emma Lyrical says, my issue is every time I go outside, I feel like shite next day. Might be hay fever. That does sound like hay fever, Emma Lyrical. I'm sorry. It's getting to that time of year where people are going to get real confused, mixing up what's a symptom of a virus and what's a symptom of allergies. Pro tip, if your nose is itching and running, probably not a virus. It's probably allergies or a cold. I mean, if it's itchy eyes and watery eyes and whatever, it's definitely allergies. Helsinki, Finland. Jan Hoffman. Had a nice weather today, so I went for a bike ride. Sweet, Jan. That's a good idea. Hello from Denmark. We are captive in Spain. Are you fully, like you can't even leave the house by yourself in Spain? Oh, watch out. Here comes the train. Woo! Texas, USA. Here, hi from France. In Denton, Texas, we're on stay at home, but not a lot are doing it. I've been allowed walking the dog. Okay, yeah. So like here, because it's not actually that cold, Anne. Hello from Montreal. Hi from Holland. Hello from my basement. Hi, Grimalkin. Hi from Netherlands, Romania, Florida, Armenian. Hello from California. Okay, how am I gonna do a hydration break today? Well, I didn't bring any water, unfortunately, so I'm gonna have to talk for 2 hours without a water break, or maybe try to find a faucet somewhere. Sounds windy as heck over there, Tim. Yeah, I'm trying to like shield my microphone so that you guys can get an okay experience of this. But it is necessarily going to be a little windier than usual. Hey, how do I get it? Oh dear, how do I get it back? Okay, where are you? Joshua, I'm in Montreal. So in Montreal, like, Canada caught this thing pretty early, and that means that we instituted a fairly sizable like lockdown in terms of like closing all major businesses and like all non-essential businesses. You will drink from a public faucet. No, I won't actually do that, Vlad. That was a joke. So like because of that, we haven't gotten to a point of catastrophe. So we have a little more leeway. And as of so far, we are able to go outside. Like you can't. They've started issuing tickets if you go outside in a group. If you're close to each other, then you get in trouble. And there's been some cases even of people, like a family, a family of 3 that like live together or whatever, going out and getting in trouble, which is ridiculous because they live together anyways. But if you're one person alone, you're staying 2 meters away from people. That's totally fine. Let's see. Yeah, what's going on with you guys? What's the status where you are? Sacrifice the Glitter says Helsinki, Finland too. Had to come back from London for a while. It'd be better to be able to do it earlier, but uni allowed it very late. Okay, so you're wait, where are you now? You're in Finland now. Cool. Pablo says we only go for press and food in Spain. You're fortunate. I miss flowers and landscapes of early spring. Yeah, I was too. I don't know. It's like I don't know. I'm spending most of my days indoors. Aside from going out into the backyard with the little niece and nephew that I'm taking care of. So let's see what else is going on. I have not been outside for 21 days, says Samaz. Samaz, where are you from again? Let me know. Yeah, so I mean, I hope this, we'll have to see how long I can actually do this, because I have a feeling that I'm not going to be able to do it much, even as the weather gets better, just in terms of like my data plan, right? Like I was trying to do I did a couple of tests for this stream, and it looks like it's going to chew through about 25 megabytes a minute, and adding that up, that's 50 gigabytes in 2 minutes, so 500 every 20 minutes, so 1.5 gigs an hour. So over this stream I'll probably use about 3 gigabytes of data. I have a total of 7, so I imagine that I'll be able to do this once, maybe twice, and then other than that I'll have to do it where I have access to Wi-Fi. Let's see, Jade Clutter. I'm trying not to report you, Jade Clutter. I keep accidentally pressing things. So Jade Clutter says hardest part has been looking at a computer for 15 plus hours a day. Okay, I'm gonna see if I can cross over to the other side of the street, because there's too many things going on here. Too many people. I'd like to just have a chill walking time. Let's also see if I can adjust my hand placement a little bit. There we go. Tell me if the wind gets too much. Yeah, that's windy. Let's see if we can try to get out of the wind. Yeah. Busy comedy clubs have Wi-Fi. Yes, that's true, Vlad. Busy comedy clubs have Wi-Fi, but I think I'll still avoid them. Rue W. Where are you from, Rue? We're fine. Numbers are small, and apart from 7 p.m. curfew, everything is pretty much normal. That's really encouraging to hear. Where is that? I might guess that from your username you were from Australia, but I don't want to make that assumption. Annalise Doubledum says our healthcare system is holding up. Looks like the rules are flattening the curve. Yeah, it's looking like we're starting to stabilize around here. Like all this stuff was put into place going on almost 3 weeks now, and like it's been imperfectly done and done in stages. About 2 weeks is about the delay from the time when you've put in measures and the time when you actually see it in the results, because last week, this week's hospitalizations are last week's illnesses, and last week's illnesses are the previous week's infections. So no matter what you do, you're to stop the virus. Once you do it, you have 2 weeks before you'll probably see it in the official numbers, because you usually find out about people when they go to the hospital. So that's why people have been doing it real early. But we did that, 2.5 weeks ago, and it looks like it's starting to flatten off. I mean, it's early days, and it depends how effectively we did it. I know our premier of this province of Quebec has been on the news, being like railing against young people who aren't taking quarantine seriously, who are still going and having house parties and whatever. Joseph Chung, I live in a part of California with the least amount of cases, but I'm still saying quarantine for safe measures. Quite a few cases at local Stanford hospitals though. Yeah, California also acted pretty early. Hey, there goes the train! Woo! My niece and nephew love the train. They just get to watch it and chug it along. Should we take a side street? Let's take a side street. Let's go up here and see what we're doing. Same as day 18 of isolation. Tim officially becomes a vlog streamer officially. They broke me. They finally broke me. It took them 18 days plus Sundays. David de Cloth, Annelies Netherlands, deaths doubled today. That's sad, David. What's the Netherlands doing? I haven't heard much about them. Here in the Philippines, says Juanito Mendoza, here in the Philippines, the curve is also getting well. Hopefully by May, all of this is in the past. Well, I wouldn't get my hopes up about that, Juanito, that it's going to be all in the past. This is looking to me like it's going to be the year that we're going to, like, not that this particular phase of things is going to be the whole year, but until you get a vaccine tested and distributed, you tamp the curve down. You got to keep it down. If you go back to normal, you're unless you've like absolutely locked down the borders and are keeping everything in check absolutely, then it just starts growing again. So here's what's going on right now. We've got normally there is, if you do nothing to stem this virus, it has a doubling period of about 4 days and an R0 of about 2.5. R0 is how many people any given infection will infect. So if a given infection will infect 2.5 people, then those 2.5 people will infect 2.5 people squared, which is 5 point, I can't remember. I'm doing bad math. 6.25. And so, that's what you have to do, is get that R0 value below 1, because that's when you go from exponential growth to exponential decay. So if you look, for example, at the graph of China's daily case rate, it's a pretty clear, except for technicalities because they changed definitions a bunch. It's a pretty clear exponential ramp up, and then as soon as they lock down the country, it's like the real cases stop and it's an exponential ramp down again. So you need to go through a phase of strong lockdown to get R0 way below 1, so you can exponentially decay down to something down to something reasonable. And then after that, so the estimate is that China brought theirs down to 0.32 or something. Okay, David is saying R0 is what it is when you haven't taken any measures. R is when you have. So maybe it is R. I thought R was when you started to develop herd immunity, that you were calculating for that. And the R0, which is always dependent on your society still was still called R0, even if you change society, but I don't know. In any case, yeah, once you get down, like, you can open up to the point where R is about 1, and then if you have 20 cases now, you'll have 20 cases tomorrow, 20 cases the next day, etc. It won't grow, it won't shrink, you can just kind of stabilize. Whereas if you're at 10,000 and you only keep your R at 1, then you'll have 10,000 tomorrow and 10,000 the next day and 10,000 the next day. So there's a period where you really have to clamp down and like do way drastic overmeasures, and then once you're done, then you can kind of stop and like open things up a bit, and it won't explode again the way it did the first time. But at the same time, you do have to keep your R at 1, whereas normally it's 2.5. So that's something like a 60% decrease in overall transmission. So part of that can maybe be done with masks. Part of it can be done by changing, social schedules and just keeping big events closed. Yeah. People are saying I sound sort of frantic. I think, I haven't exercised all that much. It's also weird to like vlog while like my arm is being held up here. So it's weird to like walk and talk and hold a camera and vlog all at the same time and actually try to get a point across. So if I sound frantic, I'm probably not actually frantic. I'm just trying to figure out this new medium and try to keep you far away enough that you can see my whole head. Let's see. They are thinking about a tracking app in Germany. That's interesting. Like, that's a thing that's already standard in, well, like they have one in China, they have one in South Korea, and I've been sort of monitoring to what extent that's going to be a thing that Western countries are willing to do, because we have a lot of, like, people have privacy concerns about having an app on your phone that tracks you everywhere. And in normal times, I think people would not accept that. But as we're seeing how, how well South Korea is doing with it, then the cost-benefit changes, right? Let's see. People are asking about hydroxychloroquine or chloroquine, Plaquenil. What are the side effects? The side effects of Plaquenil or hydroxychloroquine include messing with your heart rhythms, I think. Oh, look, hey, look at this. We got a squirrel. You see the squirrel? Where's the squirrel? Hello? Oh, he went away. Right. I enjoy squirrels quite a lot. So if I see a squirrel, I'll probably stop. If I see a cat, you're gonna see me pet a cat here, because I have a general policy of petting cats. Let's see. Okay, you did see it. That's good. So yeah, so the side effects of it is a pretty nasty drug. Like, I mean, if you get it slightly wrong. So Chubby Emu just did a good video about the couple that ate a fish tank cleaner because it said hydroxychloroquine on it, and sort of went into the details of the studies on it. So the studies that I've seen have been, they've just been mixed right now. Like, there's the two out of France that are like kind of sketchy because they have no controls. Like they're showing good promise, but the doctor refuses to have a control group because he finds it unethical. And that already, I think, I don't know, is a bit of a red flag towards whether you can trust the result, because you have no idea whether it's due to that or other things, or how, like, I don't know, like Chubby Emu goes into a bunch of like things that seem really strange with that study. And then otherwise, there seem to be conflicting studies. Like, there are some coming out of China that are saying this is showing promise at ridding the virus from your system. There are other ones that find the exact opposite effect, and say that there's actually Like they can't find any indication at all that it helps the virus get out of your system any faster than doing nothing. So right now it's just a mess, I think. Like obviously there's enough interest in it because it has shown, like, it showed some effectiveness against SARS-1 back in the day in vitro. I don't think they ever tried it in I don't think they ever tried it in a person because we killed SARS-1, but they tried it in vitro and it seemed to work at high enough quantities. But yeah, it's just, it's one of many things. I think at the moment, just we need more data on all this stuff. So, I mean, there's like, what's that other one that like there's another drug that's being tried that actually has a mechanism for how it would work, because it inhibits one of the proteins that your cell it doesn't attack the spike protein, and it doesn't attack your ACE2 receptor, but it inhibits a protein that's needed for the virus to fuse with your cell membrane to get inside. So like that one, we know that there's a mechanism by which it's seemed to be effective on other viruses. So I can't remember what that's called. If anyone knows what that's called, you can let me know. Hey, look, it's a park. You want to go into the park? Let's go up into the park and see if we can find some more squirrels. Oh, Ajasic says every animal that doesn't actively want to kill you is great. Let's see. Oh, it's windy. It's windy up this hill. Nina Krebs says, going off topic and into science. Yeah, that sounds fair. Why did you study physics? Why did you choose your specific fields? So I've answered this question before, I think, but I essentially, let's see if we can get close to this squirrel. Some of the squirrels around here respond to being called. Let's see if this is one of them. Let's see. There he goes. Goes up the tree. No good. Oh, little squirrel. Hey, how's it going? Yeah, I mean, when I went into CEGEP, CEGEP is the step between high school and university around here. Man, this train is loud. It's the step between high school and university. It's kind of this intermediate where it's like half, I don't know, it's pretty much like a halfway point. And you choose like a subspecialty, so you choose science or arts or computer science or whatever, but you don't specialize further than that. So I went and did like a 2-year science program at CEGEP because I knew I wanted to do science. Like science, I loved all kinds of different kinds of science. So I did it, and I found out that I wasn't very good at chemistry, and I really liked microbiology. I found like learning about the internal mechanisms of the body fascinating. DNA replication and epigenetics and all manner of cool things, like just that inner world. And then, hey, more trains. And then I also found that, but I think my first love was physics. Like in high school, I would read, like a brief history of time in class instead of paying attention to like my chemistry teacher. And that was just like, I was really drawn to like the fundamentals. Like I had this, I had these questions that I would write like in my English notes because I was bored with English. They would be like, here, just write for 20 minutes and write about whatever you want. And what I would write about were things like, what's the speed of gravity? I don't understand the answer to this question. If the sun disappeared spontaneously, how long would it take for the Earth to stop going around in an ellipse and instead go off in a straight line? And I asked my physics teacher, and he was like, I got an engineering degree, dude. I can't help you. You need to go and study further physics. And so then I went to CEGEP and started talking about, or started learning physics, and also started learning chemistry. And even in chemistry classes, every time you asked, well, why is that? They would say, well, if you want to know that, you'd have to study the physics, because we don't know, like things like the Schrodinger equation, like in like atomic chemistry, you learn about orbitals and orbital bonding and hybridization and all that. And let's go up here. And if you ask why, they say, well, the Schrodinger equation. And then you say, what's the Schrodinger equation? And they say, well, if you wanted to know about that, you'd have to study quantum physics, and that means you got to go into physics and whatever. And like, physics is kind of, unless you're going to study pure math, physics is kind of like the bottom level of reality. And so I figured, I'd better, if I want to know what's really going on in the universe, I should know what's going on at the bottom level. And then if I can, I can expand upwards from there, but I should go all the way down first. So that's what I did. And I don't know, also I was just always good at math, and like physics I always just sort of got, and I wasn't that great at practical things. So if you want to be good at math and not great at practical things, and sort of skirt that line but not be a total mathematician, do physics, I guess. So I was just really curious. But then, because I did my physics degrees out of curiosity, I wasn't actually, like, a lot of people go into physics because they want to make a career out of it, right? And I didn't necessarily want to make a career out of it. I just wanted to know things. So once I was kind of done knowing the physics that I was interested in, I was more interested in going off and doing something else. You want to sit down? Could sit down under this here tree. Give me an opportunity to a little bit, I don't know, not worry too much about, oh, my lips are dry. I really should have taken some water with you. Hold on. This is your hydration tone. If you would like to take a hydration break right now, please take your water and sip it, and come back when you're done. Alrighty, let me see if I can reposition you a bit. What else we got? Yeah, Jan Hoffman, that hit the spot. String theory and the like, promising or dead end. I think the confidence in string theory as a whole has gone down in the past 8 or so years. Like, even though so we built the LHC, the Large Hadron Collider in CERN, and the idea of it was that, like, number one, it was supposed to find the Higgs boson. That was like the one thing that everybody knew it was going to do, unless it didn't, and that would have been like the most interesting thing. Would be to be like, whoa, the Higgs boson actually doesn't exist. Now we've got to reformulate everything. That would have been, that would have been fascinating. But pretty much everyone figured Higgs boson's going to get discovered. That's like the for sure thing that'll prove the efficacy of this machine. And then after that, all the interesting things were, we were hoping for dark matter candidates, so like weakly interacting massive particles. And we were hoping to find supersymmetry, which might have found us some weakly interacting massive particles. And supersymmetry is really what you need to find to know that you're on the right track with string theory. So what supersymmetry is, it's this symmetry between basically matter fields and force fields, or if you're going to be technical about it, between fermions and bosons, or like half spin particles and whole spin particles. But think of them as force fields and matter fields. So like electrons are vibrations in matter fields, photons are vibrations in force fields. And matter fields contribute to a positive energy in the matter fields contribute to a negative energy of the vacuum, and force fields contribute to a positive energy of the vacuum. And energy in the vacuum is supposed to curve space. This is what Einstein found out. And yet space seems to be flat, pretty much. And one of the reasons people really like supersymmetry is that it's a way to get basically flat space, because every matter field has an associated force field, and so all of the contributions to the vacuum energy cancel out. So that's one thing. The other thing is that it's really needed for string theory to work. Like, this is why superstring theory is called superstring theory, and like all the interesting things about string theory come from supersymmetric strings. So you need to find supersymmetry to confirm string theory. And like, if we had found supersymmetry, it would have been not strong evidence for superstring theory, because there's other ways you can have supersymmetry, but it would have been evidence for it. And so the fact that we haven't found it 10 years along, and it doesn't look like it exists at this scale, which was kind of the interesting scale that it would have solved a lot of problems for, that logically has to count against string theory. And also, just like, string theory hasn't really panned out in terms of finding like a universe that looks like ours so far. So I sort of tend to believe that, I don't know. So like, there are so many different micro theories that can lead to gravity, because the Einstein field equations for gravity are naively what you would get if you took any theory at the micro scale and you zoomed out so much that you can't tell the details. If you see what happens, Steve Weinberg has a great essay about this called "What is Quantum Field Theory Really?" or what is quantum field theory and what did we think it is, or something like that. And gravity, like our classical gravity, turns out to be completely generic. It's what you would get no matter what your like fundamental theory was, if you were just too big to see the fundamental theory. So like, string theory, it's cool that it's one theory that does provide a quantum theory of gravity, but if there are like 100,000 of them, string theory might just be the first one we came across. So, you know, that could be the same for loop quantum gravity. It could be the same for any number of things. So I think string theory is like a good playground, you know, because if you have at least one theory of quantum gravity, then you can find out what else might be generic in a theory of quantum gravity. But I wouldn't really hold out that it's going to be the ending theory. Now I'm biased in this. Like, I did take 2 string theory courses, but I was already skeptical of it going in, and I don't see these kind of like beauty arguments that seem to really sway a lot of theoretical physicists of like, oh, this is so beautiful and perfect and would explain everything and it has to be right. Like, it feels like that's wishful thinking to me. But I will readily admit that I understand string theory less than the people who are making those claims. And so, you know, I'm not going to stand here as someone who took 2 basic string theory courses and say that I know better than them. Let's see. What in your opinion has to be primary? Theory or practice in terms of physics and engineering? Depends on your goals, right? Like, fundamentally, if you need to build something and you need to get it to work, you need to go with practice, right? If you don't know that your bridge is safe, don't build a bridge. So you know, whatever you have, test it and double test it, and you know, make sure it works in the real world, because the real world will not forget anything. The thing with theory is, like, if you have a perfect theory, then you can extrapolate into the future. You can test things out without building them. You can imagine with it, you know, with a theoretical construct in your brain, you can imagine things that you would have never thought to stumble across. But the thing with practice is that it won't forget anything. The world does not make calculation errors. And so, whereas you could make 400 calculation errors and not realize it. You could have unknown unknowns that you couldn't have even imagined. The world will price all that in. And so practice is really, at the end of the day, it's the only real proof that you have fooled yourself. And yeah, nature cannot be fooled, is the line from Suljo 1. Yeah, it's so easy to fool yourself. And I don't know, like so in the end it's got to be practice, and that's one of the problems with string theory, right? And with all quantum gravity theories is there's no real testing ground to show that they're wrong or that people aren't fooling themselves. Jade Cutter says, what is some cool research we could do on the moon in lunar orbit in the next couple of years? Anything you're excited about? I think the moon, I don't know if the moon's all that interesting. It's, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I don't want to say the moon's not interesting. I mean, I don't know what, like, I'm sure there are millions of experiments you could do on the moon. You could do, you know, gravity stuff, like just overall how do things survive in 1/6 gravity, like longitudinal studies and that on that in a million different ways. And that would be really useful if we actually wanted to, you know, colonize the moon or set up bases on the moon or extrapolate that out to anything else. It's really hard to get away from gravity for more than a tiny amount of time in on Earth. And so right now we've got kind of two labs for what to do for how different gravity works. We've got Earth, where gravity is 1, or whatever, 1 Earth gravity, 9.8 meters per second. And we have like low Earth orbit and the like the space station where gravity is 0 or almost 0, you know, microgravity. So we've got these two labs. It would be really interesting to have the moon as a third one. You can set up, you know, what happens to a mouse if it stays on the moon for a year? You know, if it has food and oxygen and all sorts of stuff, but it just, like the gravity question, that would be interesting. You might be able to do that. Yeah, Jamil Zalmat, gravity in orbit is not 0. Fine. Gravity, well, depends what you think about the equivalence principle, Jamil Zalmat. Einstein showed that gravity is observer dependent if the observer is accelerating. So you can think of, I'm gonna let this train go by. Woo, train! You can think of low Earth orbit as, oh, we're accelerating in a way that exactly cancels out gravity. Or you can take Einstein as word and say, you know, nope, from your perspective, it actually is the case that, you know, gravity is 0. But that's a little off topic. We were talking about the moon. What else could you do on the moon? You could, you could subject things to very intense changes in temperature from lunar day to lunar night over a 28-day cycle. That train was a missed opportunity for some crazy example. I don't know what that means. This is microgravity or research erasure. I'm telling my satellite team. How dare you? Do a flip on the moon. Yeah, it's could we terraform the moon? Probably. Would we want to terraform the moon? It's really hard to get an Earth atmosphere, like Earth atmospheric pressure on the moon, because there's 1/6 gravity. I don't know if you can do it. I don't think you can do it, because like gas just doesn't get very dense on a thing that small. So you'd have to have like a way thicker atmosphere than there is on the Earth. And at some point you get far away enough from the moon that like the solar wind can just rip your atmosphere away, which is why the moon has no atmosphere in the first place. You know, it's just, it doesn't have enough gravity to sustain one. The solar wind just whips it off. So it would be like, it would have to be a constant process of like pumping more oxygen and nitrogen into the lunar atmosphere as it whisks away. I have no idea what the time scales of that are. Like what the time scales are for solar wind whipping away the atmosphere, or how much you would have to add. I mean, I think But I think if you're going to talk about colonizing the moon, it's going to stay little domes, like domes in enclosed spaces. Terraforming the moon sounds real difficult. Terraforming Mars sounds a fair bit easier, I think, because like even though it's further away from the sun, you could imagine like doing some sort of crazy like geoengineering, like runaway greenhouse effect type thing, so you could get the temperature up. And then, you know, Mars has a lot more gravity anyways, you know, less than Earth, but you could imagine, you know, if you could figure out a really efficient way of producing tons of the right gases. To terraform some place, you kind of have to use exponential growth. Like you need to use bacteria or something. Like the only way that Earth got filled with oxygen is that life, you know, exponentially exploded once it realized that there was a niche to exploit that involved producing oxygen. And yeah, so we need to use the same mechanics that are causing this virus to spiral out of control if you want to do something that can really be scaled up to change an entire planet. I think could be cool. What's going on in the chat? The oxygenation catastrophe is my favorite catastrophe. I'd say it's a pretty solid catastrophe. I like the ultraviolet catastrophe myself, but it didn't actually happen. It was purely theory. It was the ultraviolet catastrophe was one of those examples of the world getting right what theory got wrong, because we just didn't know enough. Let's just literally move plants producing iron and stuff on Mars to not harm Earth. Iron and stuff. I mean, like to get all the iron out of the rust in the rocks. Same as, can we try to cultivate extremophiles on the moon? I guess. I mean, I don't know of any extremophiles that can deal with lunar day and lunar night. Maybe tardigrades. Can tardigrades deal with that? Maybe like freeze at night and come back out during the day. Seems like not their ultimate, I don't know, not their ultimate habitat. They might just have to like solidify and stay dormant for the entire time. Let's see what else we got. Hey man, just got to house. There are 2240 now here in Russia. 2240 what? We fixed optical cable that was stolen by some margins, and they think it contains some margins. What's a margin? Like some people? They think it contains copper or aluminum, idiots. Wait, so you had your internet cables stolen? I mean, I guess optical cable can also be useful for things. I don't know. What's the going rate at a junkyard for optical cable these days? Some of the craters on the poles of the moon never see the sun. So that might be a good place to do that. Huh, yeah. Lucille, no daily discussion today. Yeah, the problem is that, like, because I'm, like, I don't know, maybe I'll put one up afterwards, like, so we can still discuss today. But because I'm doing this on my phone and, like, out here in the park, and I should really get away from these trains. Maybe let's walk up here and get away from the trains a bit. But because of that, like, I didn't feel the need to put up a daily discussion that I could read and talk, like read on the Discord and talk about while I'm walking, because I can't go see it. If I minimize this window, I'm afraid that that the stream's going to go down. So I don't have the ability to read the Discord now. So if you want to go steal questions for Tim from the Discord and post them in the chat, feel absolutely free to do that, because I'm incapable of it. Let's see. Whoever sees that, be happy. How about... Oh, there's people. You got to avoid the people. You get on the other side of the street. Let's enjoy the sun. Hey, squirrels? No squirrels. What was I talking about? Let's see. What about creating a poll on your Discord channel to choose the next topic? That's not a bad idea. Although, people have been talking about various things in the Discord. I've been kind of trying to figure out whether I want it to be more of a democracy more of a more of a rule-based, codified law system, whether I want to be something like a benevolent dictator. Like, people have been talking about whether, like, which rules there should be, which kind of rules there should be. And basically, my rule for the moment is be nice or I'll kick you out. Which is entirely arbitrary and based on, my whims, but hey, it's my Discord. I don't know. So, like, I think probably that can only last while the Discord is small, because, I don't know, like, tribal leadership of one person only works when you have something so small that you can actually keep track of everything. And I would want guidelines for the mods if the mods actually had to start working, so that they can justify their actions and stuff. But I do kind of like the idea of being a benevolent dictator, and I don't know, I'll see. But yeah, that might be a good idea to do. Like, we just need to figure out a way to, like, get good suggestions and rank them, or like I'd have to pick them all, which means that I'd have to think of like 4 different topics for any given day, and frankly it's hard enough to think of one, so I'd want to crowdsource that. If I had to have a dictator, it would be you. Thanks, Valdemar Burning Hansen. It's greatly appreciated. Tim, the natural philosopher king. Yeah, I like the sound of that. Oh, Fartsovchik Smith has more about what's going on with the telecommunications stuff. Yes, I work on a telecommunication company. We're sitting in our homes, except situations where somewhere failing magistral networks, like today. Sorry for my English, it's still poor. That's fine. All hail Tim the Benevolent. Okay. Ask me more things. Gigi Voice says, sing Sunny in the Park with Tim. It's not. Mary Mead says I need lip salve. Yeah, you guys know any natural lip balm that I could find on, like, in the middle of Montreal? Otherwise, I'm just gonna have to lick them lips, Hey, Aaron, my brother-in-law's in the chat. Inspired by the discussion on Mars, Moon, etc., what are some things Elon Musk has said that you agree with and are out of the box, and where do you think he overreaches? Hey, we got a squirrel. See if we can we see the squirrel? Squirrels are remarkably good at, like, staying on the other side of a tree from you. It's like their primary skill. And so I suspect that we're never going to see this squirrel. I think that Elon Musk tends to, I don't know, he tends to be, I don't know, a mixed bag, I guess. Like, obviously, the man has some, has done some great things, some amazing ideas. SpaceX is not a thing that I imagine many people could pull off. I think, like, in terms of what he's done outside of his actual, like, professional things, I think his worries about AI are on point. I think he's listening to some people who know what they're talking about in terms of just how drastically unprepared we are for the possibility of producing something that's more intelligent than us. There's just no, like, if you think we're unprepared for a pandemic, we are in no way prepared for ceding the world to something that's a higher power than ourselves, but that we haven't actually figured out how to make do what we want. So I think he's got a point there. I don't know. Whoa, this is a weird squirrel. We've got a squirrel that's like half brown and half black. Let's see if we can capture it. Hey, come on, squirrel. I'm very easily distracted. Did he say something about being in a simulation? I think he did. I don't know if I'm super sold on the simulation argument. I don't know. It seems to me that, well, I don't know. You just need a lot of computational power to simulate this universe at the fidelity that we're capable of handling it, of viewing it. And I think that if we lived in a simulation that was like a low resolution version of reality that was sort of tailored to our senses and like exploiting all sorts of tricks to convince us that it was real, I don't know, our sensitivity and particle accelerators and all that might put the lie to it at this point, but I have no idea. Like the whole question of like, is it more likely that there are more simulated worlds with conscious minds than there are actual universes with conscious minds is filled with so many bloody unknowns from every point of view. Like, what is consciousness, and how hard is it to simulate a universe that would have consciousness that would be impervious to measurements by those beings inside it as to the nature of its simulation. It's one of those things where if you're trying to calculate a raw probability, I feel like you end up with blank over blank, not available over not available. And so I think, I don't know, it seems to me that I have a less than 50% likelihood that any given argument is not swamped by an argument no one's thought of in terms of whether we live in a simulation. I also don't know if it really makes any difference whether we live in a simulation or not. So it's one of those sort of academic exercises. It'd be nice if we lived in a simulation where the simulator cared about our conscious experiences and gave us some sort of afterlife. But maybe that's just my Catholic upbringing talking. Star Strike Science says you're like one of those dogs in the movie Up, where they interrupt whatever they're saying to say squirrel. That's precisely me. I've done that on many occasions. Pretty much every time I go out and do anything, whether it's squirrels or whether it's anything else. Are you team graviton or team curved space-time when it comes to gravity? I am neither. I don't think. I don't know. Are there teams? I mean, gravitons are like, you can have a curved space-time at a classical level that turns out to be made of gravitons at a fundamental level. It can also turn out that there are neither gravitons nor curved space-time. And I think that's what I'm leaning towards. I suspect that a lot of the things we consider to be geometry and curvature are in fact effects of us being weird wavy beings that we think of as solid beings. But I'm probably totally wrong about that. Yeah, you're right. I think my licking my lips just makes them worse. So that's unfortunate. Jamil says, maybe when you die, you wake up in a VR booth with a message showing your simulated life ended. Would you like to try again? That'd be nice. I'd be down with that. It's basically Buddhism for the modern era. Like, you get karma points based on how well you do. Am I getting Buddhism right? Game Secures asks, how do abiotic molecules make up something biotic, like human, and the working mechanisms are able to make a consciousness? Well, the Game Secures, the short answer to that is that there's not really a good boundary between abiotic and biotic. Like, the best definitions of life that I can come up with, one of them is based on evolutionary theory and the other one's based on metabolism. So evolutionary theory would say that anything that can, like, the evolutionary theory sort of definition would be anything that has the ability to make copies of itself, but that is somewhat error prone in those copies, leading to differentiation and natural selection, is alive, and anything that's not is not alive. So that is there's nothing in there that gives some sort of mystical property to certain abiotic molecules and certain biotic molecules. If you have a conflagration of physics that can replicate itself with errors, such that those errors can be selected for, leading over time to only those that have a greater capacity to replicate gaining dominance, that is life, and that's all it is. The other major difference, like the thing that I think more intuitively reflects what people mean by a biotic system versus an abiotic system, is that biotic systems exist outside of like thermal equilibrium and maintain their own thermal disequilibrium. So they have some sort of metabolism that, like, keeps entropy away from them and preserves their own structure much longer than you would naively expect. Like if you were to observe a human body and you didn't know it was alive, you'd expect it to decay in a matter of days. And yet, as it's alive, it has the ability to maintain itself for 80 years. And that non-equilibrium chemistry is like, it's kind of a chicken and egg thing, because non-equilibrium chemistry is like necessary to give rise to little machines that can self-replicate. But self-replication and evolution leads to more effective uses and maintenances of disequilibrium that allows the whole process to continue. So yeah, I think in terms of how does that stuff make up consciousness, I think it's fair to say that nobody has really a good idea. Like, consciousness looks to me like less of a biology question and more of an information processing question. Like, I suspect that there's nothing about the particular proteins and cellular interactions in our brains that leads to consciousness, that it's much more likely to be the network of connections and information and sort of the centralization of that information in particular ways that leads to something like consciousness. But I mean, that's purely guesswork, right? Because nobody's really figured out what consciousness is. It's a very hard problem, hence the hard problem of consciousness. Let's see. I gotta stop licking my lips, but there's yeah, you're right. I'm gonna dissolve my lips by licking them. Tapxa, are you comfortable with discussing your feelings about discussing religion? Am I comfortable with my feelings about religion, or my feelings about discussing religion? Those are two separate questions. So, I don't know. I guess I could tell you guys a little bit where I stand on religion. First of all, I think, like, this came up yesterday in the portion of the stream, like question portion of the stream, and then we had a bit of a discussion on the Discord. I didn't really participate in it. Lucille and I had a couple messages back and forth. So my current thinking is something akin to, like, it's basically naturalism. It's, I don't see evidence for a deity that impinges on everyday affairs and has real world effects. But I spent pretty much my entire life as a Christian, as a Catholic, and like a pretty strong one at that. And so I have I have a pretty strong sense of what religion can mean to a person, and what it can give to an individual and to a community. And it's something that, frankly, I haven't seen anywhere else. I think for all of like secular society's attempts to replace religion with, I don't know, like other communal activities, there's nothing really like a church and religious structure that exists outside of a church and religious structure. And like the closest I can think of are other very, like, like deeply held cultural traditions. So for example, in around here in Montreal, we have certain like groups of like descendants of immigrants who are really really tightly knit. Like I'm thinking of the Jewish community, like the Ukrainian community, and like there's something weirdly it seems to be the communities that have gone through like terrible traumas in their recent pasts that like they have this really strong sense of tradition and like roots of their ancestors and like things that tie together the community in like a common structure that goes back like hundreds of years. And that's really beautiful. And religions like old religions give that same structure to communities when they're done well. And honestly, I think one of the things like so the thing is done poorly, done wrong, and done within a modern framework of this is like we're going to read this book and extrapolate from it and start telling you what to do. Your religion gets less and less effective the more the world changes to not reflect the particular details of why that book was written in the first place. But as a center for people coming together with a shared mission and shared purpose, and like there's something about believing anything all together that lets you like it just gives you certain levers to come together as a society in a way that all secular groups that I've been part of really struggle to do. They struggle with a common purpose, with a shared goal, and with anything like that sort of fundamental belief in the mission of whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish. And so like I find myself in a place where I'm kind of sad that I've come to the conclusion that I don't think there are any religions that are true, because it's kind of forced me to let go of something that I genuinely can't really find a replacement for. And there are versions of it. There are, online groups where we come together because we're interested in something like this one. But it really, like I think there's a hole in a lot of people's psyche that religions have traditionally filled, that they then try to fill with things that are no better and in fact in a lot of ways more dangerous. So for example, Tapska's asking, could politics fill the gap left by religion? I think it does. That's the thing. I think often people start to treat politics the way that people treat religion, in which it's you have certain articles of faith and certain core beliefs that hold your community together, and you fight for and preserve your community. And that's not the way politics should work. Politics should work on a rational basis. But I don't know. David Foster Wallace once said that one of the greatest arguments he could see for anyone joining a religion or worshiping a deity is that if you don't worship a deity, you're going to worship something else, and everything else you can worship is worse. Now, I don't know if that's entirely true. I appreciate the I don't know, there's an interesting experiment going on right now with the rationalist community, who it seems have taken that side of their psyche and are explicitly and intentionally devoting it to rationality, full stop, like understanding the world in precisely the ways that the world is. And I don't know, it's I think it's too early to tell whether that'll implode or not, but it seems to me a better guess than trying to worship a particular political ideology. Yeah, did I lose people? I mean, the stream numbers went up. Maybe people are interested in talking about this. The Meteor Angler says politics and religion are basically vectors for tribalism. Sort of. They can be. But I think calling a religion basically anything, especially an old religion, is misplaced. Because if you have, like, this is where we get into meme evolution, and like weirdly enough, Richard Dawkins is the one that coined this idea that like meme structures, like idea structures, can evolve over time. But when he attributed it to religion, he attributed it to him as, sort of like a viral model, where like religions are this parasite on the mind. But there are lots of ways for something to evolve, and generally, parasites over time will evolve to be less parasitic, so as to not kill the host. And in fact, they can easily tend to evolve to become symbiotic. And so I think that's something that you see happening with a lot of older religions, like the new religions. John Perry from Stated Clearly and I talk about this a lot because he grew up Mormon, like new religions are like, can be a lot like new viruses, right? Like they haven't tested their limits. They might be like, they might be optimized for virulence and spread and killing the host. And the thing is, that's a really good short-term strategy, but you tend to burn through your susceptible population very fast if you're a virus like that. That's why plagues don't last forever. Whereas successful species that are dependent on a host in a way that a religious construct is dependent on minds and sharing by minds to survive is one that's actually learned to be beneficial to its host. And the most successful things like that are things like mitochondria, which probably started out as parasites and have now integrated into us so thoroughly that we would completely die without them. And it's worth thinking about whether any given religion that you're looking at is on the more parasitic side, or whether it's on the more symbiotic side or mutualistic side. And like your mileage is going to vary on any particular religion, which one you think it is, and the dynamics of thought are such that memes can mutate a lot more rapidly and a lot more freely and radically than genes can. And so it can, it doesn't necessarily take very long for something to go from, for a mental construct to go from mutualistic to parasitic or back around again. And you might also imagine that in the same way that things can go extinct because of environmental changes like climate change, or habitat destruction, that the acceleration of change in modern society is basically habitat destructing a lot of the religions that were well suited to humanity in the millennia previously, just because humanity is changing so rapidly. But we'll have to see, rapid change causes rapid pressure. And it does seem to me like the human mind is really at some sort of core level. There's a lot of, it's a religious mind. It looks for, not only does it look for magical explanations to things, but there are a lot of parts of human experience that religions have classically filled. And so it's going to be interesting to see what fills those in the future, whether anything has the capability to. There's some thoughts on that. What are people saying in the chat? Hello from Poland. New religions, love this topic. Yeah, ask me some other things. Meteor Angler says, people seem to need to be tribal. It's part of being human. I agree that religion and politics can be both mutualistic and parasitic. Any form of community can be both. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's true. But it's hard to see any person who isn't involved in at least one tribal war. I don't know if I found that. I'm probably involved in several. Scrolling up. Boo, boo. It is time for you to take a little sip of your water. If you can just knock that back, sip it down, enjoy your hydration in the absence of mine. Boo, boo. Let's see what we got. So many streams, says Raphael. I can't watch them all. Markiplier, Jaden Animation, Crank Games Plays, Jacksepticeye, and more. That's cool. I'm glad so many people are starting streams. Or doing streams, you know. I think I was early to this game, but in terms of like the COVID streams, but I don't want to be the only one, you know. As I've said to people before, enjoy me if like stay here if this is the best use of your time, and don't otherwise, you know. Let's see, Melissa Gavin, pretty off topic and maybe too personal, but are you in a relationship? I think I will call that one too personal for the moment. Maybe as I get more comfortable with the boundaries of this stream, I'll answer that kind of question. Let's see. Religion, whatever. Are dwarf planets real planets? Hey, there's a tribal fight we can get into. There's so many. Yeah, I don't know. I've definitely ranted about this before, about the planets thing, or the arbitrariness of definitions, and how people seem to be like so, I don't know, so wrapped up. Like it's really interesting with the Pluto's a planet thing, how nationalistic it is, how much everyone at NASA is like, Pluto is definitely a full planet, and the reason why it's a full planet is all these like rational reasons, but also behind the scenes because it's the only planet that was discovered by an American, and we really don't want to take that away from us. And then on the other hand, the Europeans being like, it's totally not a planet. Yeah, it doesn't matter. All these things are the same. Like, Pluto is not going to change by a single molecule based on whether you call it a planet or not. Like, I don't know. Eliezer Yudkowsky in his sequences has a good rant about this, about how definition arguments are literally the most boring form of argument you can have, and every time you have a definition argument, really you should take it down a level, and just explore the entire framework within facts that everybody agrees on. Les Wrong has a good article called "What an Algorithm Looks Like from the Inside." Yeah, I don't know, that might be it. The one I remember is it's sort of a meditation on that old, like, if a tree falls in the forest, does it make a sound? And people can argue for days on that, but really it just means that you have different definitions of sound. Is sound the acoustic phenomenon of waves traveling through the air, or is sound the experience of those waves when they interact with your brain? And that's what people are really arguing about. They're not arguing about anything about the physics. Everybody agrees that there will be an acoustic wave if the tree falls in the forest, and everyone agrees that there won't be a psychophysical phenomenon of hearing sound when there's nobody in the forest. And so if you just go one level deeper, everyone agrees on all the facts except for the arbitrary nature of what you're supposed to call the thing and whether it's a sound or not. And if everyone agrees on the facts, then they agree on all the consequences of the facts, in which case, why are you arguing? You're probably arguing because it's fun and because you're naturally tribalistic, right? Is a hot dog a sandwich? It's up to you whether a hot dog is a sandwich. There's no truth of the matter. If you have a definition argument about socialism and or communism, that can actually be somewhat interesting. Star Strike Science says maybe, but even then, if you have a certain system of government and you set it up, it's going to do certain things and have certain effects, and whether you decided that it was in the socialism bucket or the communism bucket is not one iota going to change any of those effects. You should be able to simulate all of them from lower principles without like and never have to have that charged debate about what to call the thing. I don't know. That's my opinion. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm a guy who got out of grad school and decided to sing songs on the internet making silly faces for a living. Don't listen to me. Jamil says, my grandparents learned 11 planets in school, and then they got degraded into asteroids. Oh, in the asteroid belt. Yeah, I guess there was a time when people found like Cephas and they were like, oh, shoot, there's a planet. And then, I mean, I think their asteroids are still called, like, are they still called minor planets? Is that still another name for them? Jade Cutter says, this is the most affirming convo about those damn riddle question debates. I feel less alone right now. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things like that are, I don't know. So, if you want to get into my philosophy, here's my philosophy. There are atoms, well, there are quantum fields. There is physics. Physics is a true reality, as far as I can tell. Or at least, if it's not a true reality, then it's exactly as if it's a true reality. Everything else is mental construct. You know, any higher level reality than that, it's like there might be efficient ways to put things in categories. So like, there's a reason why we have a category called atoms, because physics seems to arrange itself in atoms. But there's, you know, as soon as you go any levels up, there's some play in the joints. So do you call an electron orbiting a positron an atom? Unclear. It's a boundary case, right? Does it matter whether you call it an atom? No, not at all. You can do all the same physics and have all the same consequences regardless. So that goes all the way up. And it goes for like simple things like, is a hot dog a sandwich? And like, how many, like, is Pluto a planet? It also goes for complicated things like, how many genders are there? Or like all these political questions that get people super charged up. It's like, that's a higher level concept. You're gonna be arguing definitions, and like there's no right answer. The answer is, like, the reason people fight over these things is not because there is a fact of the matter. It's because the way that you can fit them into your mental frameworks and your previous biases, if you can fit into one category or another, it's going to sway irrational minds efficiently into one direction or another. So it's kind of a game that has to be played, because there are real world consequences to these sorts of questions, and which opinion society takes will determine which boxes they put things in. But it is very arbitrary. You could come up with a definition of gender for which there is one gender, the human gender or whatever, right? And it would be like, it wouldn't capture the nuances that you would usually want that to capture. And so most people would say that's a bad definition, and they wouldn't argue about that one. And then if you wanted to make that's the same if you go for 2 or if you go for 3 or if you go for many, there are certain features of the world that your bucket captures then, and that allows you to like explain it in better ways to certain things, like to people in a way that makes sense to them, and maybe will help you like gain political ground in ways that you are currently powerless or whatever. But my point is, they're not arguments about reality. They're arguments about strategy for society and for the mental buckets that we would prefer to see these like higher level phenomena go into. So yeah, I hope there was nothing in there that gets me in trouble. Math was created or discovered. What is your opinion? I think math is created the way that chess was created, and it's discovered in the way that chess strategy is discovered. Does that make sense? I think that makes sense. I mean, chess is basically a subset of math, so I would put it that way. Like, you got to invent the rules of chess, but once you invent the rules, you're locked into consequences for the rules that you then discover. And if you change the rules, then you will be locked into different consequences, but you've still got to discover those consequences. All right, Siljo is logging off. Big fan. I've got to make some methane today. All right, do that, Siljo. Go and log off. Let's see. Bartsovchik Smith, did you thought about to make a song about first space winds of humanity? That'd be interesting. We call it the Space Firsts. Yeah, I feel like if I was gonna do that, I should I don't know. I should go on Amy Shira Title's YouTube channel and like watch her entire backlog. There's a few videos that I've been thinking that I should make. That basically the research would involve watching someone's entire YouTube channel. One of them would be that one, where I should just like watch everything that Amy has ever put out, and probably that would be my most efficient way of finding something. Another one is if I'm gonna do computer science. Oh, what's his name now? Ben Eater. Ben Eater has if you haven't seen Ben Eater, he has this fantastic computer science channel where he's basically building an entire computer, one component at a time, out of basic circuits on a breadboard, and like explaining it very effectively. And I met him at VidCon, and he gave me his card, and his card is a literal, like, it's a printed circuit, and if you put a little battery in it, like, his business card will do like funky light dances and stuff, and basically it shows you a pseudo random pattern of lights. Yeah, so you should check him out. But if I was gonna do a computer science thing, I would go and look at basically his entire channel and then go from there. Listening to Tim talking about sociology is so relaxing. Thanks, Arpad. I appreciate that. Let's see. New song anytime soon, says Ruler Sonic Boom. Quite possibly. Quite possibly. I'm thinking, like, I'm leaning more towards doing this COVID song that I've been mulling over in my head. Like, it's a song. I think I've found something that I think actually does suit the moment. I really didn't want, like, I've been seeing these like COVID parodies that are like, here's the COVID Rhapsody, or staying inside, and like, I don't know, they're cute, but I've felt really hesitant about going in on something like that because it doesn't feel like it fits the gravity of the moment. And I think maybe I found something, so I might work on that. We'll see. If you go to the Discord, you can, in the creative projects thing, you can actually see the lyrics that I've proposed. I've changed them a little bit since then, but if you want to go and give your own feedback on that, I think, did I pin it? I can't remember if I pinned it. Either way, it's not that busy of a channel, so you can scroll up and find it. Yeah. Have you watched the video song Vietnam created for COVID-19 awareness, Sigma B? I have not, Sigma B. So if you have a link to it, go. What's Discord even? Says Melinda Given. Go to in the links down there. There's a link to the Discord. Go sign up in the Discord. It's like there's like 400 of us there, and they're all musical scientist types, and we hang out and talk about things. So there is a COVID-19 chat there, and Sigma B, I would encourage you to post a link over there, and I'll take a look at it later. You have to watch it now, right after the stream. Well, Jan Hoffman, I'll see what I can do. Yeah, I'll probably after the stream, I don't know, see if I'm even home after the stream. I might, after I take this long walk with you guys, I might take another walk just by myself. And just clear my head, go out and look at the sun, etc. Maybe climb up the mountain. Montreal is a pretty cool mountain. You allowed in the play park, Tim? I don't think so. I think the play parks are closed. like, you know, the centralized equipment that lots of people are going to put their grubby hands on is discouraged, I think. Oh, Jan Hoffman says it's amazingly horrible. Oh, dang. I was hoping for a good one. We'll see. Oh, my battery's at 20%. It started at like 90. So, oh, gotta watch out for people. Hey, look, people exercising. I'm gonna have to stay away from folk. Luckily, this is a one-way street, so if I can keep my wits about me even a little bit, I can walk sort of in the street and hopefully just dodge when cars are approaching. Hey, where'd my chat go? Where'd you go, chat? Jade Cutter says, if money was not an issue, would you buy a ticket for one of the New Shepard Earth orbit trips with Blue Origin? Yeah, I'd do that. I've been wanting to go to space and experience zero gravity since I was like a wee small child. I'm super jealous of Derek and Diana for getting to go in the Vomit Comet and, you know, even just experience like parabolic trajectories where you get like microgravity for like 10 seconds or whatever. So if given the opportunity to actually go to space, yeah, I'd do it. I mean, the risk to your life is not insubstantial, probably. Like, astronaut is definitely one of the most dangerous professions. But, you know, what's life if you're not going to live it? And if I got the opportunity to go to space, yeah, I'm going. So we'll have to see. Life is long. Sometimes things get exponentially cheaper over time. It is hard to see a way out of the rocket equation, but who knows? You know, maybe by the time I'm a retiree, having saved millions of dollars from my incredibly lucrative YouTube career, I'll be in a position to get to go to space. Or maybe I can just finagle my way with my, you know, science connections to make it happen. We'll see. Do you guys want to go to space? Tell me if you would take a trip to space, and also if you would take a one-way trip to Mars. Be an interesting question. If you got to play with microgravity on the ISS like the astronauts, what would you do? Honestly, I think I'd just float around. I think I've seen all the cool experiments, you know, with bubbles and water and whatever. I'd definitely bring something where you could do like the intermediate axis theorem. You know, like even if it was just like a phone, you can like flip it. But even better, like one of those strange T-shaped structures. But the real fun of microgravity is, to me, just the freedom of movement. I think that's one of the reasons why Ender's Game was one of my favorite books as a kid, just because that, like, the whole idea of like these intricate strategic battle games in space with like three-dimensional freedom of movement. It's such a cool idea. Like, I got the opportunity to learn how to scuba dive in January out in the Red Sea, and that's about it's about as close so far as I've gotten to something like that, because you really have this like three-dimensional freedom. Now, scuba diving in some ways is probably superior to zero gravity because you can actually change direction midway. You can control your buoyancy and stuff. On the other hand, you got to deal with pressure and all that, and you know, make sure you can breathe. So that's fun. What's going on? If anyone here is a scuba-er and wants to invite me out when this is all over to wherever you happen to dive, I would love to have more diving buddies. Because here in Montreal, there's not really a lot of opportunities. The water is fast and cold. I was learning to kayak before this whole thing shut everything down. That's a more common thing to do around here. Melissa Gavin just looked outside and was weirded out by the fact that it's dark. Already live this stream or something. Yeah, you know, we're an international community. Out here, it is 4:30 in the afternoon, but somewhere else, it is every other 30 in every other part of the day. Whoa, the earth is round. Crazy. Yeah, you can do like, Jade, you can do like bodysuits, like dry suits. But it's just as, I don't know, it's not as free for sure, and I would need some more training, I think. Non-Euclidean Dreamer says, only if my family would come to Mars with me. I think they need more practical people. Yeah, it's a weird, I don't know, it's a weird, like, it's probably a weird psychology that would go to Mars. I imagine it would be a bunch of oddballs that went out to Mars for the first time. Similarly to the way that, you know, it's a bunch of oddballs going anywhere and there's something new going on. Like, who's going to be the first people to jump on a ship in the 1600s and go across from Europe to America and try to farm the wilderness? Like, it's not going to be people who have a great stable life and are doing well. It's going to be people that feel like the risk of Atlantic death and never seeing anybody again, you know, is worth it. So either you got to have a crazy sense of adventure, or you just got to have not a lot to lose, I guess. I guess they paid people a bunch too. Or they paid them to send their daughters over in the case of Quebec here. Hey, look, we're going up. We're headed up right now to a busier sort of street. The buses are still running here. I think they've got the fronts blocked off so that people don't breathe on the bus drivers. But the buses are still running. I guess people gotta get where they gotta get. Like in the early days of spaceflight, find the nuttiest individuals. Yeah. I wonder what it's like on these buses. I don't really want to get on one and find out. Oh, hey, Brox. Welcome back to the stream. I haven't seen you. Scuba diving in Taiwan is pretty fun. The water is so salty. Yeah, the Red Sea water is crazy salty too. Beautifully clear. I hadn't realized that the reason why the water is always so clear around coral reefs is because corals are essentially a desert species that pop up and extract nutrients out of their very efficient symbiosis in places where otherwise, like, it would be a water desert. Like, nothing has the capability of growing there. Like, you always think of, like, oh, the water's so pristine and beautiful, and it's rich with life, and that, like, pristine, beautiful water in oceanography is a sign that, like, you're in a dead zone. There's no upwelling. There's no nutrients coming up from the bottom that, you know, schools of fish can go and take on. You know. Oh, hey, Alice. Yeah, new format. We're walking around today. I got sick of being trapped inside, so we're walking outside away from folk. Yeah, what was I talking about? More questions. Give me more questions. Ann Smith says, do you have a car? Nope, I don't. I don't even know how to drive. Well, that's not true. I can drive, but I don't have a license. I got like a learner's permit, and then I'm just too scatterbrained to remember to actually drive places. what am I saying? I'm too scatterbrained to remember to like keep my appointments to do the like official training. So I always miss them and have to reschedule them, and this has been going on for years until such time as my learner's permit expired, and then I kept forgetting to get that back. And now there's a lockdown and nothing's going on. But you know, I live in the city. I have a bike. There are public bikes out here in the summer that you can get around with faster than you can get around with cars. The only thing that sucks about not having an actual car is that, you know, it would be nice to go on road trips and things. So you're kind of confined to the city unless you get someone else who has a car. Alex Noth is here in the chat. Alex Noth says humans are not the virus. I agree, Alex Noth. I guess I would caveat that with, if we are the virus, I like this virus. I would like it to keep going. I would like us to not, you know, ruin the planet. It'd be nice to keep all the other little complicated viruses and descendants of viruses alive too. But I thoroughly disagree with this idea that, oh, people are the real problem. Like the voluntary extinction movement, I don't buy it. I don't know. I think there's something, I don't know. To me, there's something sort of disturbing about believing that the species you're part of should cease to exist. Like maybe that's just all, you know, subjective. I guess it is all subjective because, you know, values are one of those higher level constructs that aren't made out of fundamental physics and therefore are fundamentally about your mental state and your categories and particular things. But for me personally, I have a nature by which I like myself and my species and fellow humans, and I don't think that's something that I have the capability of setting aside. And so if someone tells me that humans aren't worth it, that we're a virus or a cancer on the planet, that we should go extinct, I can't tell them they're wrong from their perspective, but I can tell them that I will fight against that perspective. And I don't know, that's about the best I can do, I think. I hope that there are more people believing that humanity is worthwhile than there are people believing that we should play this one out. Laurie Svensson, friend said, apart from suits and masks at an isolation booth, there is no way to keep grocery workers safe. I get his point, but figure hand washing, cleaning to do something. What do you think? It's hard. Masks are like, it depends on the details of viral spread, but like there have been people like, I don't know, it seems to me like it's pretty likely that this virus spreads in little droplets that hang in the air, which means that like you can wash your hands and that'll eliminate the fomite problem. Fomites are when they're surface contamination. But if you actually can, like generally, like with the flu, you can just breathe it out and breathe it in, you know, in short ranges. Like it doesn't go as far as measles does, but it's still pretty hard to protect people from. No, with like you're seeing this with like even like healthcare workers that have personal protective equipment. They have shields. They have, you know, people like it's not just shortages of equipment. Like people have been getting sick even if they have like proper N95 masks. Like for one thing, they're hard to use properly, and there are studies that even medical professionals don't use them such that they have a firm seal a lot of the time. But yeah, like it's just, I don't know, it's real difficult. And it kind of sucks, you know, like nurses and doctors, you can make the argument that, like, I don't know, I feel a little more comfortable like saying, okay, like you've set up your life to be around infectious diseases. This has always been a risk. Now's the pandemic. It's time for, you know, like you're gonna have to step up. This is your mission. Accept a little more risk. With like grocery store clerks, they didn't sign up to be the front lines of a pandemic. You know, you can, I don't know, you can call them heroes, but it's I don't know, heroism comes from choice, not out of, you know, making $12 an hour and now your boss needs you to keep coming into work even though you're gonna get you're at great risk of being exposed to a virus. So I don't know a lot about I haven't thought a lot about what the alternate solutions to that might be. But yeah, it's not pretty. Let's see. Have you ever read Accessory to War by Neil deGrasse Tyson? No, I haven't. I have. Hey, trains, always trains. I think you'd like it given your statements after the Eminem song. It was a hard read, but good. Yeah, I think there's some ways that I don't think I necessarily disagree with what I did with the Eminem song, but I think if I were to do it now, I would be a little less accusatory with it. I'd be a little less pointed, a little less sure about, like, I think I was coming from like a real pacifist stance at the time, and I think I still have a lot of that, but I think it's less about my particular stance and more that I'm less comfortable with making my science platform one that inserts itself into political conversations. Like, to me, it feels like there's a difference between like the philosophical conversation of, hey, here's a thing that you need to consider if you're a scientist, that you know, that your inventions have effects, and they have powerful effects, and with great power becomes great responsibility. I think it's a little other, and maybe, I don't know, in retrospect, I feel like it's a little bit outside what I want my channel to be telling people what the conclusions to that reasoning should be. Like, it's not clear to me what the ethical choice was in 1945 when all those physicists were working on the atomic bomb. I think it's a lot easier to, like, even looking at it retrospectively, it's difficult, but at the time, certainly, it was a real mess of uncertainty. And like, you can see by the way that those physicists split later on, where some of them became like hardcore anti-nuclear activists, and some of them went on to develop even crazier weapons. I don't know. I think I would like to empower people to think critically about their moral choices and take them seriously. But I would not necessarily like to tell people what they should conclude. Let's see. Lucio, question for Tim by Anne on Discord. Okay, Lucio's copying things in the Discord. Sweet. Are you allowed to parody any song you want? Do you ever have to get permission or pay some kind of fee? if you guys want a really good rundown of how copyright works on YouTube, I'd recommend you go to Tom Scott's YouTube channel and check out a video of his that he recently put up. It's 45 minutes long. It's called YouTube's Copyright System Isn't Broken, the World's Is. It goes through the whole mess of YouTube copyright, including